The 88th Texas legislature is in full swing and lots of legislation is taking shape. In fact, more than 3,500 bills and resolutions have been filed so far, and many more are expected in the coming weeks. With so many ideas bouncing around, it can be a little hard to keep up. But don't worry, TPPF is helping people stay informed by highlighting the policies and the policymakers working to advance the cause of liberty. This is The Layout. I'm James Quintero, Policy Director for the Government for the People campaign, and today I'm joined by Chairman Bob Hall, who joins us all the way from Senate District 2. Mr. Chairman, welcome to the show.
James, thanks for having me on.
Well, today we're going to be touching on a bill that I know is near and dear to your heart. It's an election omnibus bill that does a lot, and I think would greatly improve the state of Texas elections. Can you take us through what the problem, though, is that we're trying to solve here?
Sure can, because we have a major problem in Texas with our current election system. It's too complicated, too expensive, and the answers are unknown. Matter of fact, I call it the black box. It is truly a black box system in which we really only know three things about our current election system. That is, we know the names of the candidates, we know that some number of people showed up to vote, and we know that the government told us who won. Other than that, no candidate, nobody in office today could go into a court of law and present evidence that would prove that their election was the will of the people.
I tend to agree with you, Senator. And can you take us through how the bill might work?
Okay, well, for one thing, it's simplified, and it becomes a standard throughout the state. Right now, we have 254 counties, each doing its own election its own way. We'd have a single process, and instead of having three election processes, early voting, mail-in ballots, and election day, in which the law, the rules are all different, we would reduce that to just two: in-person voting and mail-in ballots. In-person voting would be like a 12-day period that would begin on the second Monday before the Tuesday of voting and run straight through Election Day. Same rules, nothing changes. Everybody votes in their precinct on the time period. That would allow us to be able to run what's called a zero tape. That's a tape that's run just before the machine is used the first time. And then when the polls close on Election Day, we would be able to produce what we call a results tape, which would be the results of the voting in that precinct. And that would be a hard anchor for the vote count for each precinct that would be printed and published right there. And then those results taken to the county with, first back at the precinct, we will be voting on hand-marked paper ballots using paper that is secure paper, common format for the entire state. The ballots will be encoded with so that they're very difficult to produce, like a dollar bill. They'll be sequentially numbered on the back, and each one will be signed by the judge as they're handed to the person to vote. So you got multiple ways of making sure that to minimize the chance of doing the old ballot box stuffing. The ballot at the precinct will be read by what we call a dumb optical reader. It's not a computer, simply a scanner that looks at the ballot, counts the votes, and runs it on a tabulator. Those results will be stored on a write-once memory card. They're called worm drives. They've been around for a long time, and that means that once it leaves that machine, it can't be written on again. So you have security in that device. When that device gets to the county then does the totals for the county with all the precincts coming together. And once they have the preliminary results of assembling all the precinct votes, then there would be an independent verification that says that the county level vote for each precinct still matches what was at the county the night the polls close. Then that's sent on to the Secretary of State's office over the internet, which is just fine because we're going to have another check, and that is once this Secretary of State assembles the county vote, They then go back to the county and say, this is what we have for your county. Do these precinct votes still match what there were on the night of the election? And once the county approves that or says, yes, they do, then they would be published. So we have independent verification. Now, those steps that I just described, they aren't done today. They aren't being done. And there's a lot of loose time in our current system between early voting and election day that we really don't know what happens to those memory cards. And so that is the crux of a very simplified process that could very easily be used by every county. We get rid of the computers for marking ballots. I mean, just think about that. We're using a $3,500 computer to mark the ballot. You and I learned how to do that with a crayon in about the third grade. So we don't need a machine like that. We can do it with a 10-cent ballpoint pen and using the secure ballots that are sequentially numbered and signed, adds security to it. And then on top of that, we will replace the electronic poll books with a paper poll book. Paper poll book for each precinct, which now brings greater security to it. It'll be printed 30 days before the polls open, which is the time period that people must be registered to vote before they're elected.
Is it fair to say that you're hoping to enact these measures to boost voter confidence?
Oh, absolutely. The idea is to boost voters coming to the polls with a higher confidence that their vote counts. And as I talk to people, one of the main reasons that people don't vote, at least what they're saying is, they say my vote doesn't count. You know, there's too much cheating going on, or it just doesn't count. It doesn't matter whether it's fraud or mistakes. And there's nobody who can say, oh no, there are no mistakes made. That's not true. We don't know how bad the mistakes are, and every place there's been an audit, there have been serious errors found. Anytime we went back, the thing is, it's very difficult to do an audit that's really meaningful because of the lack of chain of custody, the protection of the data, but everyone has found serious errors.
Now, of course, critics on the other side are going to argue that the current system is just fine. How do you plan to respond to that criticism?
Well, I'm going to respond. What we have done is, over the years, people have said, Senator Hall, you know what I saw? And they tell me their story, and I believe them. And I said, but that doesn't do me any good. That's anecdotal. I need some hard evidence. And so what we did was he had a campaign with a group of the grassroots in several counties, got affidavits from people of the anomalies they saw. And the first initial stack of affidavits that I took to a data entry person to put it all together was about 11 inches tall, of 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. It's grown since then. Right. We've summarized those one-liners and then put a link to a database where you can go look at the total affidavit. That's filled 3 3-inch notebooks right now of incidences of things that just weren't right. I mean, it was something like, well, what we found in Smith County with a citizens audit was done there. There are 5 different steps handling mail-in ballots in which they record the number of mail-in ballots. 5 different steps from the time they receive them till the time to get to the Secretary of State's office. A little over 8,000 mail-in ballots. No, not one of those 5 steps had the same number, and there were as much as 500 plus votes difference between them. We see that time and time again of a difference between what was at the precinct and what was at the county and what's at the state level. We have stories of people that saw anomalies. Dallas, a couple of elections back, the folks watching Central County started to notice that as they brought the memory card in a secure bag, sealed with the precinct name on it, they take it out of the bag, put it in the machine, and when the data came up on the screen, the name that was on the screen of the precinct was different than what was on the bag that it was brought in. So they wondered, how is this happening? So they started watching to see how these memory cards were getting brought to Central County, and they discovered that most of them were coming from down the street a couple of blocks away from a building rather than a car being driving up outside and bringing it straight in. So, and then later examination of those memory cards showed that they had been downloaded and reloaded with data. So those are just a couple of the examples that we found. I mean, there's everything in the world that you can imagine of the shenanigans have been pulled, and then the effort by many of the elections locations in which they try to keep the poll watchers from being able to watch what they're actually doing. And those are, it's not all the state. We have a whole lot of really good election officials that really try to do a good job. But even those that try to do a good job, the system is so complicated and there's so many gaps in it where errors can be made and things lost. I mean, we've had elections in which, in Hill County a couple of years back, when it was all over, they all of a sudden, after they had canvassed it, they noticed that the vote count was 1,500 more than they had people who voted, and nobody could explain it. And they came up with an answer. I'm not sure I believe it. The answer they came up was, oh, we made a mistake and we counted the mail-in ballots twice, which was roughly close to the number that was difference. But the point was, it was wrong, and it wasn't even caught going through the entire process. And so who knows how many we have like that nobody ever even saw what happened. They just accept it. And we get back to what I said initially. All we know is some number of people showed up, and the government's told us who won. And on the number something showed up. This last time in Dallas, we actually have video of poll books that near poll closing time, all of a sudden names started being added to the poll books. Where there had been 700 or 800 people voting there, the poll books were reflecting 1,500, 1,700, 2,000 people. And it did not match with the hard copy. Dallas was one of the counties that required their judges to not only use the poll books, but to keep a written log of the folks as they came in to vote. And that still hasn't been answered how that happened.
Troubling, sir. Last question, looking ahead, do you feel confident about the passage of this election omnibus bill or something like it?
I do. I think people realize that we have a problem, and when they see the evidence that we now have, we're no longer talking about people just, this is not about fraud. This is about a complicated process that we just don't know. And the people of Texas deserve to know. We need to have accountability. We need to have transparency in the entire system. And we need to know that the results, we have high confidence that they're accurate.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's well said. Thank you for joining us today. And I look forward to helping us get election security in this coming session.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate your support.
Thanks,
God
sir.
bless you.